down. All right. So recording today's week 1 lecture in, I went my classroom lights. Hold on. There we go. All right. Off to a grand start here. All right. In basic construction. So here we go. I'll be curious to see where you're at on that. We'll follow up here after I get through some of our topics for our week. So the first things we're going to be talking about this week is the sewing machine, so that you have a pretty good understanding of what the machine is actually doing. Unfortunately, I did not learn that when I first learned how to do a sewing machine. Somebody just said, put the thread here and push the pedal. I had no idea for 15 years what the machine was doing. I just, thought it was magic. But once I kind of learned more what the machine was doing, if I had problems with it sewing, I was able to kind of address those problems and take care of them myself more often than saying, well, I can't do it, I can't sew, I got to take it to the repair place.
Yeah.
So it really is important to understand that. And then you get a brief overview of some of the tools used in sewing. I tried to stick to mostly everything that came in your kit, so you have a clear idea of how to use it. There are, racks and aisles of all kinds of goodies and notions at fabric stores, if you've ever walked down those. And I'm tempted, and some of them make sense for the investment of the money, but they're nothing that you have to rush out and get. Don't feel like you have to. You can you can get all your basic projects and everything throughout this program done with the supplies you have, aside from maybe having to buy thread to match whatever project. But other than that, all the tools you received will work there. And the sewing samples, it's quite a list this week. The list will get shorter in weeks 2 and 3, but the offset of that is that the sewing projects get a little more involved, where this week the pillow project's kind of a pretty simplified one, but it really does challenge you to some of your seams and things. So let's take a look at some of that. Your attendance credit, live lecture is 10 points. In the case you miss it and there's a recording to go back over, you could potentially earn your lecture points by writing a summary on that. And then don't forget that forum discussion. Make sure that you take care of both parts of it, though. There's the initial post to the prompt on the discussion to begin with, and then I'd like for you to reply to another student's post. And even if that student were a previous one in the class, what you might consider doing, even if they can't actually answer you, sometimes it's better to ask a question of maybe their answer, rather than I get a lot of, oh, I agree with you, I agree with you, I agree with you. Maybe that's the case. Maybe everybody does, but maybe asking them, what further else maybe they could explain or whatever. And since that student's not in the class, but what happens is maybe the next one coming along might see that and could expound on it and such. All right, the textbook is Sewing for the Apparel Industry. This really is a great textbook. So many sewing books out there on the market, or that you could find on Amazon and everything, they're really geared for showing you how to sew certain things for the home sewer. And some of the first things I'm teaching you in this basic class are perhaps more the way a home sewer might do it. But this book, and as you come back to it in your intermediate and advanced construction classes, explains it more how they do it in the industry, meaning in sewing factories. So you have a really good idea, like production-wise, how would they sew it for speed and accuracy and kind of things there. It's also got some great appendices in the back of the book, some classifications and reference charts, and some quick troubleshooting, and glossary of terms and all kinds of things like that too, that would really help you in career-wise for the clothing industry rather than just home sewing. And it's about the only one out there written for the industry. All right, so the kits came with the sewing notions and some fabric samples already pre-cut for your sewing samples, and they should be in separate bags of ones you would need for week 1, week 2, and week 3. Now you'll probably, unless you, okay, in week 1 I put a couple extras in there in case you had some mess ups, but only like 2 or 3 more pieces is all. So don't be alarmed if you had some extras there. That was intentional. And then for your pillow project, we do provide the fabric for those, but just not the stuffing that goes inside that. And you got like what's called fat quarters. And so what those are is they're not just a quarter of a yard, because a quarter of a yard would only be 9 inches long. Yeah. So they are half of a yard long, but only half as wide as the fabric normally is. So you're just getting a quarter of a square yard, but you're getting it more as a square rather than as a rectangle from side to side of the fabric. So square inches, you're still getting the same amount. It's just in a different dimensional breakup. And that, let's see, also you've got the patterns for the shorts and the dress that we assemble in this class. Fabric for the shorts and the elastic for the shorts is provided, but the dress pattern, that fabric is not provided. That project is week 3, so it's about 2 weeks down the road. Hopefully that you can plan that into your budget. All right, so the things about the sewing machine, you kind of learn a little bit of the history of it. Amazing that it's been around for about 150, well now almost 170 years now, as far as, you know, really a working model of it. Yeah. Which is, you know, if you kind of think about it, mankind has been wearing clothes for 10,000 plus years. So prior to that, everything was sewn by hand. You get an idea of how it actually works, getting started with your sewing machine. All right, and that was all on my course connection there. Then your sewing samples. You've got several different hand sewing samples, because even as much as most all clothes or a majority of the assembly of clothes can be done on sewing machines, there sometimes is some hand finishing, maybe buttons, hooks, eyes, anything like that come in handy. Same with certain types of hems. On a sewing machine, those would normally be seen from the front. Maybe you want a blind hem. So it's good to know a little bit of both. And then with the machine, different stitches and edge finishes, which are the focus this week, just show you lots of different options. And when I demonstrate those or have my little pages on them, I also try to explain when or why that type of stitch would be chosen, as opposed to you could choose another one. And not to say that maybe more than one might be the right stitch, but sometimes depending on what the garment is, what it's made of, what its intended final use is, there might be a better choice than others. And so as a designer or assistant designer going through to basically spec a garment to tell a factory how you want it sewn, you have to tell them what type of seam you want here and there and there and there. So even if you are not actually doing that sewing at a later state in your career, you do need to be able to identify those seams. And so that's why it's important to learn them here. All right, and then all the demonstrations are down there under the projects. And it just takes you through each one of them. I try to do those all on the Anna sewing machine, the same one you all got, so that everything in the video looks familiar to what you're working on. All right, the pillow project, the second one under projects there. This one will challenge your cutting because it has such small seam allowances, being only 1/4 inch wide, and that's as wide as your presser foot on your sewing machine, that it's pretty narrow. So your lines have to be straight. They have to be straight when you cut them and not too big or too small. And then you need to sew them at 1/4 inch for everything to match up perfectly, so that what I'm watching for is, how close to these corners right in here. Whoops, didn't mean to click it through. In these little corner areas, how close are they to matching up? And you just got a few of them there to match up. But by being able to control those seams and strategic points like that, just really help in later stages of when assembling garments.
Mhm.
It's interesting, not many quilters actually make clothing, and actually a lot of people that make clothing do very little quilting. But I found I do enjoy doing quilts, and that's kind of like what this patched pillow is here. But after I've worked on one, my sewing seems to have made a little jump in its improvement of being very strategic with things, because of the fact those are small pieces and they have to fit in perfectly. So this one's a good one. It's mostly all done on the sewing machine, but to close it up, looks invisible from the outside. You are doing a hand stitch after you've stuffed it full. And then that was it on the slideshow I'm sharing here. So let's exit that. And I'm going to stop sharing there. Have you been able to, have you done any of the sewing samples and started uploading them to the wiki on?
I've just sewn the basting stitch and the plain seam, and then the flat felt.
Okay.
I haven't tried to load it up yet. I was just kind of trying to
just get a bunch of those ready.
Get some progress going.
Okay. Tell you what, while we're together, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to create the new pages in the wiki. I do have a video in there on how to do it, but I figured if I walk you through it and you've got a question right then and there, you can ask me. And then my other question was going to be, but it sounds like if you've already got some of your samples sewn up, you're threaded up, and things are working good.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Good. That's a good place to be. All right. So now let me get the back over to my course connection. All right. So you, there we go. You're seeing Sewing Samples Wiki. So it won't look exactly like an assignment. I mean, this part kind of does, but down here, as you go to put things in, won't look like an assignment. And in fact, while we're here, I'm going to go ahead and set you up with your first page made. So I'll just leave it set at running stitch. That's the hand stitch. So the first page created, since I'll have that created for you, that one's easier. And then once that's going, you would have the same sort of upload editing board up here, so you can there insert a picture if you take a picture of that item. And then also part of this is including a description. So, I'm just going to put in. But you can go back in. You can erase whatever I put in here. All right. But part of this is not only being able to see the sample, and sometimes you might need to show me a front and a back of the sample, because in some cases I may need to see both sides. And you're also reiterating why this type of seam is what it is, or what type of garments it's used in, or what the function of it is. I don't really necessarily want you to just copy paste what I have in there on the project, in the demonstrations where I show you, kind of rewrite it in your own words, but then that way I know you've got an idea of where it goes. And then once you're done, don't worry about tags. You can just click save. And so you'll have one of your pages.
Okay.
All right. Map is where you would be able to see a whole list of all the pages you have. So right now you just have the one page, right?
Mhm.
And I don't know why they don't just put the button right here for a new page, but they don't. They make you go to the navigation little uh, uh, tag marker here. Then it just is like a folders opened up. So you're in here. We're going to go down to, where is it? There we go. Sewing samples week 1. There is where new is.
Okay.
See, they have all these other tabs, but why new is not on there, I don't know. But then that way you can make your next page and you can name that, you know, so like your bastings here. I'm winding up making yours. There we go.
All
Hey,
right. Okay.
Sharonda, you made it. If you move your mouse over in the bottom left-hand corner would be your speaker or your microphone.
Okay.
Yep. And then when you click create page, there we go. And
Okay. Hey.
that's all right. And then it's right down here that you would enter in your information again. And then when you click save, and you go to map, so it'll always show the last page you just did, but map will show you a listing of the different pages.
Okay. Cool.
Okay. All right. Let's see, I got to move everybody's banners over. Well, I don't know why I got so many names because I hadn't created that many pages for you, but all right, I'm gonna go back to view. Sharonda, excuse me.
Yes.
I was just showing how to do the sewing samples where you turn them in for me to be able to see. You're actually taking pictures of your sewn sample and try and do like a front view and a back view for me. And just remember that you also show a picture and describe when or why you would use that particular seam. And I usually talk about that in the demonstration. Okay. And this little link here is just a reminder video of kind of what I'm showing you all right now.
Okay.
But let's see here. I'm going to get your first page made also. So, excuse me. All right. And so when you go to put your stuff in, you'll have something that kind of looks like this, like an editing bar. If it doesn't show all the buttons, this top left one here just opens up the second and third row.
Okay.
And then you would just type in your answer. Okay. You will be able to, when you go to edit these, you'll be able to click on that, get rid of what I just wrote in there. You can do that. And then when you get ready to put your picture in, here is where you can do insert image. Okay. And it would just take you to where then you go find and upload an image. So if you're using like your phone to take pictures, you may have to email yourself your pictures, but then it's good that you know, maybe keep yourself organized on your computer for each class, you know, a different folder, and that way you can keep all your work in a folder for that class. And that way, when you're on your computer, you're able to access the pictures of anything that you need to turn in, which if you've drawn something, I ask you to take a picture and you're submitting that. Okay. All right. So once you've done any editing in here, you would click save. And then that page that was just created would be right in the listing here. Map is the one that shows you the listing of your pages. Okay, right now I just had that first one made up for you. Okay, so I'll just do it real quick again. To make a new page, There is not a new button tab across the top here. I wish there was, but to do that, you come over to, see this little marker tab that looks like what shows up on a map? It's called your navigation. You would click on it, and then it goes through everything on your course, and we're trying to get down here to the one called Sewing Samples Week 1, and then there is where the new button is. When you click that, it gives you the opportunity to name the new page, and you would name it one of these pages here: hand running stitch, hem, slip, plain, basting, flat felled seam, French seam. You know, it's one of those. Okay. And in this case, I will just do this wrist pin cushion. There we go. And then I say create page. Just leave it on HTML format. And then it's set up for you to now start putting that in, and then you would just save whatever you made to that. Okay. Now, I'm only able to create your all's first page. You'll have to go and make your new pages throughout. But if you need to see that again, here's the tutorial right here on how to use the wiki. It's the little blue link right over here. Okay. Oh, there went my lights. Have I lost you, Sharonda?
You haven't.
All right, so this is under the assignments in week 1, the sewing samples. So all the different sewing samples you have to do, you're taking a picture, and then this is where you're uploading it, but you're like creating a new page for each one of those.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. And so what you're doing are this variation of hand stitches, the sewing machine seams, and edge finishes. You know what? I need to, oh yeah, the hand stitch is running hem and slip stitch. Okay, yep. There we go, and back out to week 1. All right. Any other questions at this point? No, pretty good. Did you finally get your reverse button to work?
I was just about to tell you that. I've actually just been working. I've been literally since like 4 o'clock this morning. So I really haven't even got around to it because I've been like concentrating on them. It's hard. The slip stitch is the hardest one. I did it like 5 times. But yeah, I'm still working on it. But it's still, most likely as soon as we get out here, then I'll go ahead and test it out just so I can give you the answer.
Okay.
But you said just click down on it.
Yeah, so it'll feel like it goes in, but then you got to give it a good push. It feels like it's already stopped, but try pushing it even harder, and then it should engage. Okay. All right. Yep. Okay. All right. I did start a recording on this, so what I will do, Sharonda, for some of the first part, it just takes my computer probably about 10-15 minutes to process that recording, and then I can get it. I'll make this recorded lecture a live link, and you can go back in and catch the first part of it.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Cool. Okay. Cody, you good on everything, or did you have any more?
I am. Yeah, no, I'm good.
Okay.
As of right now, yeah.
Cool. And then if it all works, if this is a good time for meeting, I'll go ahead and put us at 2:15 on next Thursday as well. Does that work?
Yep. Yes, it does.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, Sharonda, I figured for your first time logging into Zoom, you probably had to wait for it to download the launcher and all that.
Oh no, yeah, that too. But it said I thought it was at 2:30.
That's okay too. I did change that because I didn't know if you were working today at 3 or not. So
oh, okay. Yeah.
Make sure you had time to get
Thank
there.
you.
Okay. All right. Well, then we will call it done for today.